Alright, so for this video we're going to talk about domain and range, and then how to get you guys ready for that upcoming test on how to identify domain and range from a graph. So you'll see this question on your test come Thursday, so let's go ahead and get started. So domain and range. So the first thing we're talking about is what is domain, what is range. When we're talking about domain, we're talking about these x values here. So what are the possible x values of this particular graph? So if we're going to take a look, if I want to box that in as far as my domain part, I'm going to try to box this in from left to right, so then that way I can kind of have this set up here. So so on this side I'm going to basically box it here, and if you notice it's going to keep on going in this direction here. It's never going to stop in this direction, so it's always going to keep going on all these positive values and never stop. If I look at the left portion of my graph, basically it's going downwards in this direction, so it's never going to stop, so it's going to keep on going this way. And if you notice, it's at a slight little slant here, so what's going to happen is it's going to keep on going this way, and that's going to help us later on with our range. But for now, for our domain, what we're going to have is all real numbers. So if we take a look at our range portion, so we're looking at the y values. So if I'm look at the y values, I want to talk about, well, what are the values in the opposite direction. So in other words, I went horizontal with my domain. Range is going to be your vertical part going in this direction. So if I'm drawing a line or I'm trying to box it in, where does it stop here? So if I keep looking at this is at a slight angle, and it's also kind of increasing this way, and it's never going to stop in this general direction. If I look at the bottom portion compared to this line, it's never going to stop either, so it's at a little slight slant here. So what's going to happen is going to keep going to the top and keep going towards the bottom. So what's going to happen here is we're also going to have an example of an all real numbers range as well. Okay, so what for your class or for your test, you want to make sure if anytime you have these arrows and they keep on going, making sure you figure out which one it goes with as far as domain and range. Interval notation is basically using this part and just writing in a different format. So if I'm doing interval notation, I'm going to leave it open. All real numbers, I want to make sure I include all my negative numbers, my negative infinity, all the way to my positive infinity. That's going to set up your all real numbers for this particular part. So same thing, domain and range. Since these two are the same, I'm going to have that same notation as well, negative infinity to positive infinity also. For your set notation, remember we want to bracket it in. We're talking about domain, the x's, x such that, and that's what this little bar means. Basically, x is a value such that x is going to be an element. So element is basically meaning it's going to be part of that set, it's part of that group, part of all the real numbers, and that's what this little notation is for, talking about the real numbers, all the numbers that can possibly be included. Same thing with range, so it's basically the same thing. Y is a value such that y is an element of the real numbers as well, and that's our set notation for this example.